If you'll notice, that's where it tagged right there, cylinder 4. See how the other pistons were firing and that cylinder 4 is a little bit cleaner. Notice how I just pulled the turbo off to the side. I still have everything connected. And notice how everything's new in the timing chain, tensioner, everything like that. So I kept the case on and I just rolled the tensioner back and pinned it. And now I'm just gonna plop the parts back on and get on with it. So of course I take a risk and I drive the farthest I've ever driven to do a engine refresh with pistons, timing kit, gaskets, everything. And guess what? It drops a cylinder. It drops a cylinder like a day and a half after I get home. This is over a 30-hour round trip. Look, I can't let something like that go. I had to go back and take care of it. And this is the cylinder head that was rebuilt by my machine shop. And I'm not necessarily trying to throw anyone under the bus, but I'm the one that had to take the brunt. I'm the one that lost all the money. I'm the one that had to deal with everything. And maybe I can help other people not deal with stuff like this, but I don't rebuild the cylinder heads. I give that to the experts. What happened? This cylinder head is off, so no camshafts are installed. All the valves should be perfectly seated. Everything looks good except in this cylinder right here. You see how this valve is tipped? It tapped the cylinder. It took about 60 miles to do that, but the only thing I can figure is the valve was bent. Now, of course, something could have happened with the guides or who knows, but the valve got bent. I'm assuming it happened whenever the valves were taken out, because a lot of times they use a tool like this to take out the valve keepers. Now, I've done this hundreds upon hundreds of times, and this thicker rocker arm is for the intake, and this thinner one is for the exhaust, and you have to be pretty stupid to mess it up. They're quite a bit different, and it's not gonna run right if you install it wrong, because they're different profiles. Now, I've got one video where I explain, I think it's called tipping, tapping, knocking, where if you save these rockers and you try to reinstall them, you need to inspect them very carefully, because I had one that had a broken arm on the side. This little arm right here on the side was compromised and broken, probably from bending valves in the future. Now, this is the exhaust. It would have been on the intake. Sometimes if it's really bad, it can affect both sides, but 90% of the time, it's only gonna affect the intake side. Now, I should have documented it, but I'm telling you the truth here. What I found was this, let me pop this off real quick. This lash adjuster was inside the head like this by itself. And the rocker arm was just laying over here like this. I've got a video of it, and I can put that in right now because it went to the dealership to get inspected before I came out to fix it.
I did diagnose your problem and I found out what's going on. You're having no compression on cylinder number 4, 0 compression whatsoever. So I did a leakage test and I have 95% leakage. So I ended up pulling the breather off to inspect. It looks as if you had a camshaft replaced. That looks brand new on that intake cam. However, on the exhaust side is where the leak is. I removed your O2 sensor and I could hear the air escaping through the exhaust, which tells me that you have an exhaust valve issue. And when I looked inside, if you look closely, you'll be able to see back in there. Let's see if I get it to focus. Hold on. Bear with me. Let's see if I zoom in or let it focus. There you go. That is a rocker arm that should be attached to that little nub on the right hand side. On the left hand side, you see the rocker arm has fallen off. So if you look through here, right there is where the lifter is, and the rocker arm is not in place. So what has happened is, because that's out of place, it has now bent the valve. And we don't replace valves separately here, so you're going to need to replace the cylinder head to repair this problem. Let's see if I get my flashlight on there, if that'll help. There you go. Now you can see that rocker arm just laying to the side.
So I take all my cylinder heads to the machine shop. I've been doing it for years. This is actually the second time that this has happened. The first time it was years ago. It was like 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. I took care of that one too, but I just thought it was some fluke thing. But it was a rebuilt cylinder head. What I think happened is you have to take a hammer and you tap this and you push down the spring and these keepers come out. But if you do it crooked, or possibly if you don't have this on a stand, or if the valve is tapped when you're taking this out, it could have possibly bent the valve just a hair, enough to hang up a little bit. That's my theory. But the other theory that I got was possibly the valve guide hung up, and I get a 2-pack valve guide. There's steel and brass, and my cylinder head guys were saying that I could run either one in the exhaust. And now my cylinder head guys saying, well, the brass is for the exhaust. Maybe it didn't absorb enough heat. So I'm like, well, I'm just following you guys' advice. You guys are the machine shop. I don't want to have to deal with this kind of stuff. I'll spend the extra money and just buy individual brass valve guides every single time. But this is just extremely frustrating. I'm just quickly throwing this video out just because I need to, and I probably could have done better with my production, and I could have done better with my documenting and all this other kind of stuff. But help me out, like and subscribe, because trust me, I lost a lot of money on this deal.